So this evening, for the speech that we are going to listen to, it's going to be an informative speech, and it's going to be something about, or it's going to be a speech about something that I'm fairly passionate about, and something I've taught several times. And we're going to talk about CPR, and we're going to talk about the importance of CPR. So actually, CPR on one of the handouts we have a timeline from the American Heart Association, and it actually talks about even starting back into the 1700s that CPR was starting to be studied and thought of as something that we can do to help someone in cardiac arrest. Of course, those terms weren't used at that time, though. So CPR, what we do when we do CPR, or cardiopulmonary resuscitation, is what we're trying to do is we're actually trying to contract the left ventricle of the heart. So that's the side of the heart that pumps the blood out to the rest of your body. So when we contract that left ventricle, we need to keep a certain amount of pressure of blood going to the brain. So the importance is when we're doing CPR, we have to think of it as a pyramid. And what this pyramid does is as we start CPR, with every compression, we start to build pressure in the brain. But as it stair steps up with each compression, when we stop CPR, it doesn't stair step down, it drops off. So if we were to think of it, it's stair steps up and then straight down when we stop our compressions. That's why the American Heart Association has come out with new guidelines that are saying how important it is to do continuous CPR and to delay our interruptions. Years ago, they started to do with CPR ratios. They did 5 compressions to 1 breath. And they did that for several years, and they've decided through studies that now we're at 30 compressions to 2 breaths. So we do 30 compressions before we stop CPR to give somebody breath. And in recent history here, probably in the last 5 to 6 years, the American Heart Association has come out and said, you know what, it's more important for us to do compressions than it is to even give the people a breath, because our body has enough oxygen in it to go 6 minutes without taking a breath. And with the National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration, they say that the average response time for an ambulance is 7 minutes. So from the time you dial 911 till the time that paramedic shows up on an ambulance is approximately 7 minutes in this nation. So if we do hands-only CPR, your body's going to be just fine for 6 minutes without taking a breath in time for the paramedics to get there. Over the last several years, the American Heart Association has really pushed out the idea of bystander CPR, and they have what they call the American Heart Association Chain of Survival. The Chain of Survival is early recognition, and that is what is the public's part, to recognize a cardiac event early. Then it is early access, or early 911. Early defibrillation, and that's why we see in our malls, we have the automated external defibrillators, or AEDs, that are available in places like malls, airports, churches. They're all over the place because they're plug and play. If you get an AED out of a cabinet in a mall and you turn that machine on, it's going to walk you through the steps of what to do. So they've really done everything they can to make this effective for the public to use with little training. After early defibrillation is early advanced care, and that's where the paramedics and the ambulance comes in with programs like the American Heart Association's ACLS, or Advanced Cardiac Life Support. They teach the early advanced care through EMS, and then it's what they call the cooling of someone after a cardiac event. They bring your body temperature down, and that's been proven several times to help with saving the brain, so we don't lose so much of our neural function after a cardiac event. But the early access to those AEDs is something that's been going throughout the nation. You're seeing those more and more. The other thing that the American Heart Association has really been pushing is that we have the early detection, and they've done a really good job with teaching people the signs and symptoms of things like a heart attack. Most people today know if you're having a heart attack. One of the symptoms is the chest pain or pressure, the left-sided jaw or shoulder pain, sweating, nausea, things like that. and they've really got it out there to the public, and they've done such a good job. They're actually moving away from the cardiac events now and going on to the stroke and things, your early symptoms and signs and symptoms of a stroke. So that's just a real quick, easy, simple, brief overview of what CPR is and how the American Heart Association has really made strides over the last couple decades to get everybody in the public to understand what CPR is.